Let's have this conversation now. Heala, a coalition of civil society organizations, says SA Canegrowers' attempt to question the nature of the entity as not being homegrown is a diversionary tactic timed to shift attention away from the life-saving effects of the South African Health Promotion Levy. And we're now joined by Heala's communication manager, that's Zukiswa Zimela, for a little bit more detail around that conversation. Thank you so much for your time, Zukiswa. Now, I think start us off here, if you could just explain the Health Promotion Levy and why it is that the SA Canegrowers have seemingly come out in attack and defense on the issue.
So thank you so much for having me on your show. The Health Promotion Levy was instituted in 2018, and this was put in place in order to reduce the overconsumption of sugar-sweetened beverages in South Africa. So we know that the overconsumption of sugar-sweetened beverages leads to a myriad of diseases, and South Africa is currently carrying a high burden of non-communicable illnesses. So Treasury sought this measure in order to, decrease the harms of these diseases, and saw it as a health intervention measure.
And now, what is it that you think, the association questioning your intentions as well as your source of funding in this conversation? And you are also now asking the SA Canegrowers to disclose the origin of their funding. What's the aim there?
So, I think this conversation really is a diversionary tactic. As I mentioned earlier, South Africa is carrying a very large disease burden. Currently, over 4 million South Africans suffer from type 2 diabetes. Of those, half don't know that they suffer from this disease. And diabetes has now become the second biggest killer in South Africa after tuberculosis. So, we could rattle off all the statistics of, heart disease burden, overweight and obesity in this country. And so what it is that South Africa has a health crisis at the moment. And what we need to talk about is how government can actually reverse that tide and actually stop it from growing quite rapidly. What we're saying is that we need the government to increase and expand the health promotion levy so that it is actually working. What had happened was that initially in 2018, we had asked for 20% of the health promotion levy. We received less than 11%. In that time, there hasn't been a significant increase since then. And its efficacy then is being affected because, it hasn't kept up with inflation. What we have always also been very transparent about who is funding us. If you go to our website, it's right there. We've never hidden that. And so the conversation about who's funding who's doing this really is a diversionary tactic, because what we're asking for is a life-saving intervention that affects all South Africans here. That's what we're saying as Heala.
Now, Zukiswa, we are looking forward then to budget in February 2025, and as you highlighted that the focus really should be on South Africans' health, especially considering the state of healthcare in South Africa, and that the fiscus really cannot afford any more pressure. So what's the way forward here for all stakeholders, to be able to maybe sit in a room for us to really be able to put South Africans' health first?
We would love to be able to sit in a room with all stakeholders, but as it is, as an organization like us is fairly small, and so we don't have as much lobbying power. But with what we have, we really are pushing for everyone to collectively agree that we need to put South Africans first over industry profits, and that is our message, and that will be our message going forward to the budget speech. We're hoping that the finance minister will listen to the calls of civil society and ordinary South Africans and actually implement these health-saving measures, which itself, in its initial implementation of the levy, identified and saw this as a sort of a step towards addressing some of these issues.
Well, we did hear from Finance Minister this morning at the breakfast, and really his focus is on growth. Thank you so much for talking to us, Zukiswa. That's Heala's communication manager, Zukiswa Zimela.